Hello friends of the well-maintained snowboard. Thank you for tuning in to episode number 1 of the Just a Ride snowboard channel. If you're not one of those lucky people who can hop around between the hemispheres all year long and keep the dream of the endless winter alive, then you too will come to a point where you simply have to face the fact that it is summer and you might want to give your board a little bit of love to tuck it away. So first of all, storage wax is nothing you can buy. Like you can't go into a shop and say, I need some storage wax. It's not a particular wax. Some ski techs will use a warm temperature wax or maybe a base prep wax, which are products that penetrate the base a little deeper. It's not necessary because what that means is that when the snow flies, you will have to scrape that off and apply the appropriate temperature wax for that particular time of the year or the snow temperatures you're facing. So what I do, I just use a standard, fairly cheap, all temp, all conditions wax. And I apply that and leave the coat on. And that is basically the definition of storage wax, to leave the coat on. And that layer of wax over the summer will simply prevent your base from drying out and from collecting unnecessary dirt. Before you start, you want to do two things. One thing is you want to check your edges for any kind of major rock damage and big sharp burrs. And the other thing is you want to clean the base. I'll do an extra video here about edge tunes. That's a whole other topic. This board has been tuned, so I'm only applying storage wax here right now. And the thing that I need to do before I do so is clean my base. To clean a base, you can use a base cleaner. That is a citrus solvent. And it's really good at cleaning your base, but it's unfortunately also really good at drying it out even more. And that basically just means that I have more work to resaturate the base to the state that I would like it in. So what I do is, instead of using a base cleaner, I do this kind of maintenance on a regular basis. So my base doesn't actually accumulate that amount of dirt in the first place. And the way I do this is, before I wax, I always use a Fibertex pad. That is basically a little scrubby pad, a Scotch-Brite pad, and it's abrasive. So some people will tell you after waxing you polish with this. That's nonsense, because that's an abrasive, and all that means is you get rid of the wax that you just put on. So don't do that. We use it to clean the base and to also open the base a little bit so it absorbs more wax. The other thing you can do is use a brass brush. A brass brush is kind of more to get rid of excess wax that might still be in the structure in some areas. It doesn't clean the base that well. Yeah, but depending on how dirty it is, that's a good thing to use too. Why is the base dirty? Spring snow is quite often quite dirty. There's dirt coming out all over your mountain and the groomers are spreading it around. You get these dirt patches on snow and your base will very happily absorb all of that. This one is, you know, in reasonable shape. So there's not that much I need to do. I'm just taking my scrubby pad and I can do that tip to tail or giving it a couple good rubs down the line here. Once I've done that, just going to take a little cloth, get rid of all kinds of stuff, and here we are ready to wax. Something that I like to do with my boards before every wax, before I actually drip on and put an iron to the base, is that I rub on a thin layer of wax, just like that, so that basically my iron never really gets in touch with the PTEX base. Some people think that that is definitely not necessary. Some people think that that is the only way to do it. I'm somewhere in between. It depends a little bit on the board too. My boards are all very precious to me, and yeah, I want them to be in really good shape. The thing is that once you've experienced a really well-tuned board, there's absolutely no way that you are going back to not taking care of your board. Now for an iron, I'm using a pretty good one. It's not the best, but it's pretty awesome. Wintersteiger make this thing. It has a digital gauge here, and for all temp wax you want to use about 140 degrees. Mostly it says on the on the package of the wax what kind of temperature it needs to be ironed in with. One indicator is if your iron is steaming like crazy, mine's steaming a little bit, then your temperature is potentially a bit high. I'll turn that down here in a second. So I do some lines like this. You can do all kinds of patterns, but you do want to make sure that you have a reasonable amount on there. I think the worst thing is if your iron gets stuck on the base because you didn't put on enough wax. So I use a little bit more. Once you have that on there, I'm going to turn the temperature down a little. You can basically just spread out the wax. That's step number one, like so. And once you have the wax all spread out evenly, you do a few tip to tail passes in a nice straight line to get it all in there. So you can see that my iron is leaving a trail of melted wax, and that definitely shouldn't be longer than mine here. So yeah, this is my last pass, and that is basically all we need to do to apply the wax. And all we need to do once that has dried is to remove the wax from the edges, and I will tell you why in a second. All right, we're back at the board. It is dry, and all I need to do now is take that scraper and do a bit of a cleanup of the edges. So I have this little corner in here, and I'm just gonna hold the scraper on there, and I'm simultaneously removing the wax from the side edge and from the base edge. And why am I doing that? Supposedly, the steel can hold some form of water, some form of moisture. And if you trap that under the wax, then you may get corrosion, although you thought you had protected your edges with the wax. So that's that for storage wax. Thank you for joining me today. And I wouldn't be on this channel if I didn't tell you to subscribe and click some like buttons and ring some bells and all that stuff. Basically, just keep having fun snowboarding. And if I can help you enhancing that fun, it might be a good idea to follow me here. Thank you so much. Take care.